Well, hello there, YouTube. I'm back with another review of shit. Let's get right into it, because this could be a long one, because there's a compilation of sorts involved in this one. So, first up, another one of the Marvel book series. This one, the Marvel Heroines ones, that focuses on the female characters, called Outlaw, Relentless. Outlaw is a character I'm not very familiar with, so I was very interested when I saw this one on the shelf at Indigo, and plus she's hot as hell, so yeah, doubly so. Her real name is Inez Temple, and she has superpowers like she's very durable and doesn't feel cold, and so she's hard to hurt, she's hard to destroy, right? So and her whole thing is, she, as you can see there, is kind of a cowgirl kind of look and feel and vibe to her, and she grew up in Texas, I believe it was, so she's got, like, those are her roots, sort of thing. So she is a member of Domino's team called the Posse. I think, no, I haven't done Domino yet, never mind. It's so much shit. And so she is involved with this group called the Posse, and her and Domino are the founding members of it and have a very close connection. There's some newer members to it, and I forget who they all are because I read this so long ago, but she's having not problems adjusting, but Domino is her closest ally, and she's still coming on board with their team expanding and learning to trust other people and stuff like that. So on one of their jobs, she starts experiencing these lapses, I guess, for lack of any better term, and it's affecting her judgment and her reactions, and almost compromises this mission. So she kind of removes herself from the group a little bit, and really struggles with it, and eventually finds out that there is a anti-mutant guy named Johnny D, who I believe she's had run-ins with in the past, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm not. And he's kind of getting in her head and draining her of her powers, and these are the reasons for the spells that she's feeling. So she basically has to goes off on her own to confront him and find out what's going on, and face him down. But in the end, she has to let her friends in on what's going on, and they come to her aid, and they actually pick up a new mutant for the cause at the end of it, who has done some bad things, and we may hear from him later on in some other books I might review, so I'll just leave it at that. Very cool book though, very cool character, and yeah, like I said, I'm not even sure if I had even really heard of Outlaw before this book, like if I'd even seen her before. So it was a totally brand new experience in every facet. So another book, this one, very cool, called Star Wars Force Collector, and it was part of the Rise of Skywalker kind of book line that they had out with some different titles a few years back. This one follows a young, maybe a teenager named Carr, who is growing up on a world called Murkion or Muricon or something like that, and he has this weird ability. When he touches certain objects, he can see glimpses of scenes that these random objects were involved in the past, and who was involved, and but the problem is, when he experiences these visions and these memories, he passes out and has these little fits, so people believe he's sick. Now his grandmother, though, knows it's because he's sensitive to the Force, and this happens probably, I think it was 2 or 3 years before the events of The Force Awakens. So like Luke Skywalker has disappeared, there's no Jedi left anymore, so that the whole Jedi mystique has been missing from the galaxy, and nobody really knows, right? So but his grandmother knows something, and so he wants to get to the bottom of it. And so one day he gets sent to the office for, I think he had a stormtrooper helmet in his possession, and he gets in a bit of a tiff with some other kids, and so he gets sent to the office, and they say this is the last straw. So his parents are like, you're going to go to another planet here and go to this school, and when you're done, you can come join the family business, blah blah blah, right? He's like, I don't want that. Now, while he's getting in trouble at school, along the way, he meets this new girl at school called Maze. I'm a Marillion, I think she is. And her father has ties to the First Order, and he's involved with like wanting to know about the Jedi, and the two are very much at odds. But despite that, these two get along very well, and they end up forming this friendship. And he gets upset about having to go to another planet and attend a different school, so they actually steal her father's shuttle or something like that and go off on this grand adventure and try and figure out what Carr is all about, what his abilities are all about. So the cool thing about this story is that they visit lots of worlds that come up along the Star Wars timeline, and he experiences massive events from the past. Like the first planet they go to is Utapau, and I forget what he touches there, but he sees visions of when Obi-Wan first arrived on Utapau to track down General Grievous, and he meets with Tion Medon, and if you have additional warriors, now is the time, right? So he experiences that vision again. Then they go to where did they go next? Shit, I can't remember. But along the way, like, he sees visions of when Anakin turns and eradicates the Jedi at the Jedi Temple during Order 66. They go to Nema Outpost on Jakku, and he finds the Millennium Falcon, and he sees Luke and Obi-Wan Kenobi's kind of training session aboard the Millennium Falcon during that first adventure in A New Hope. He even ends up on some planet where he finds some object, and we get to hear about Jedi Sifo Dyas, who had, during the movies, he was already gone, but he was the one that commissioned the clone army from Kamino. So we get to see some background on that, and so on and so forth, and all these different adventures until he eventually comes home with all of this knowledge. And he's actually brought home by the First Order, because Maze ends up telling her father about Carr, but yeah, along the lines of he's not a threat to the First Order, he's just searching for stuff, but he gets brought back for other reasons and gets interrogated and is eventually cleared, but it kind of stresses their friendship. But in the end, everything sorts itself out. So it's just this cool little adventure with these characters that just kind of, you get to relive past events in a cool kind of way that's kind of revelatory along the way, right? It's a really neat way to write a story. So I loved it. I love that book. That was one of my favorite Star Wars books that I've read over the last little while. Next up, finally watched this movie with my son, James, because it's got to be done. Top Gun. So, the OG Top Gun was released in 1986, stars Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis, Tom Skerritt, Anthony Edwards, and probably somebody else, Val Kilmer, of course. And the story behind it is that Pete Mitchell, aka Maverick, and his radar intercept officer, basically the guy that sits behind him in the F-14 Tomcat, what was his name? Bradshaw's his last name. Nick Bradshaw, aka Goose, are a pilot pair that are stationed in the Indian Ocean, and during a fracas where some MiGs, Russian planes, show up all of a sudden, two of the pilots up in the air with Maverick and Goose end up getting the pilot, I forget who it was, he gets frazzled by the encounter with the MiGs, and he's unable to bring his ship in to the aircraft carrier. So Maverick, after being ordered to return to the ship, breaks protocol and helps guide this pair back onto the ship safely before returning themselves. So these two that blew it, that kind of froze up, were slated to go to Top Gun, which is a top tier flight school, and so Maverick and Goose are sent in their place. Now, Maverick and Goose get there, and obviously they have some swagger. Obviously, they're a little bit unconventional, but it's undeniable the talent they have. So they rub the brass the wrong way. They rub a girl named Charlie the wrong way, who Maverick, kind of gets involved with, but ends up being one of their instructors. And they rub some of the other pilots the wrong way. Val Kilmer's Iceman, in particular. So it's kind of Maverick and Goose's journey through Top Gun as they learn to be themselves and let their inner wild men fly, but at the same time become part of the team. And the most significant event of the movie is when Goose, during an exercise, they get caught in a backwash of one of the other jets and go into a spin, and they eject, but Goose is killed in the process. So Maverick afterwards is dealing with all this guilt, even though he's cleared of any wrongdoing. And so later on in the movie, at the final, a bunch of MiGs, 6 of them, show up in the Americans' airspace, and their fighters are scrambled, with Maverick being kept on as backup. But when it's only presumed to be 2 MiGs showing up on the scene, it ends up being 6, and all of a sudden these guys are getting shot down. So Maverick is scrambled, and he struggles at first, goes into another spin, pulls out of it, disengages, and then eventually re-engages and kind of saves the day, right? So Top Gun is just one of those classic 80s movies that everybody on Earth saw this movie, and everybody on Earth loved it. It was such a cool movie, and it was a movie that when I was younger, like for a while, I wanted to become a pilot, especially a fighter pilot, right? And I went to the air show a couple of years in a row afterwards, but then I had to get glasses, and it was like, okay, well, not that I was actually going to do it or anything, but it got me thinking about it, right? But then I got glasses, and I'm like, okay, that dream's done. I can't have bad eyes. So, but anyways, fantastic. If you've never seen Top Gun, first of all, what the fuck is wrong with you? And second of all, go see it. Next up, video games. Uncharted, the collection for the PS4. The Nathan Drake collection. So this is 3 games in one. The first 3 games of the Uncharted franchise, which I'd always wanted to play, but just never got around to it. And then finally we started playing them, and we could not stop. This collection was released in, I think, 2015, and apparently they took those 3 original games and really reworked a lot of the mechanics on them and stuff like that, and some other things. So they're not exactly as they appeared on the PS3 back in the day. They've been greatly updated. But good God, what a trio of games. So the 3 games involved are Drake's Fortune, which was released in 2007 for the PS3. Nathan Drake is supposedly a descendant of Sir Francis Drake, the explorer from hundreds of years ago. And he is in the process of, along with a journalist named Elena Fisher, opening Sir Francis Drake's coffin, and based on the coordinates he had found on his ring, to go after a treasure, Sir Francis Drake's treasure. So they find what they need, and they eventually go on this treasure with Drake, Elena, and Drake's kind of mentor, Sully, an old kind of grizzly guy that flies a seaplane. They eventually cut Elena out of the thing because they think, being a journalist, she's gonna blow their cover and ruin it for them. But she comes back into the fray eventually, and this big long adventure ensues. And I'm not going to spoil too much of it because I could go on for hours about the storyline, and we've got 2 other games to mention. So Among Thieves, Uncharted 2, came next, about 2 years later in 2009, and the events of that movie are set 2 years after the events. Game set 2 years after the events of the first game. And in this one, a guy named Flynn, a real piece of shit, and a girl named Chloe approach Drake about going after God, I forget what it was, some sort of fortune. And what Flynn doesn't realize is that Chloe and Drake have worked together in the past, and it's all a setup to cut Flynn out of the equation after they use him and his resources up to find the treasure that they're after. So, and again, you go on this mind fuck of a twist with plot lines twisting and turning, and as the whole adventure unfolds. And it's just again, I can't pick which game I like the most because they're all so bloody fantastic, and very consistent with each other. In the third game, Drake's Deception, it was again released 2 years later, 2011, and the storyline takes place 2 years after the events of Uncharted 2. In this one kind of delves back into Drake's past a little bit. Drake and Sully get set up by this lady named Catherine something, I forget. She's after some sort of treasure, the lost city of Uban or something like that. And she's interested in purchasing Drake's ring that he used to find his go on his original adventure with. And but they're double crossed by her, and then it shifts back in time to when Drake was just a little guy, and when he first met Sully, and Sully took him under his wing. But this old lady, this Catherine, back when she was younger, was also involved with Sully and Drake, and so we get to see her origins and how she fits in with Drake and Sully kind of in the past, right? So then we flash back forward, and that's when the adventure picks up. And so Drake and Sully, and a guy named Cutter, and the ladies get involved as well, have to go after Catherine to take what is rightfully theirs, and get this new treasure, hopefully. So again, it's just a meandering adventure with fantastic action, great cutscenes, great storylines, twists and turns. The games made by Naughty Dog they control so well. There's some frustrating things, but it's less a lack of controls and just some difficult sequences, right? But the game is just so well done. The look, the feel, the vibe, the humor in the cutscenes and the conversations, everything about it is just fantastic. And I can't believe I didn't play these games until recently, because they are just top drawer. If you have a PS4 or a PS3, get the originals. But if you have a PS4, get the remastered ones, because I'm sure they're better than the originals. But either way, the Uncharted series is just fucking to die for. Last up, a simple little game for the Nintendo Switch called Cruis'n Blast. This is part of the Cruis'n series, like, you know, Cruis'n USA, Cruis'n World, those arcade games that were where they originated in, and were brought to consoles later. I remember the N64 had Cruis'n USA, Cruis'n World. I used to play them on those games on that system all the time, and I loved them. I played them in the arcade all the time too. Anytime we went to a restaurant and had a Cruis'n game, I was like, see ya. So very arcadey racing. You crash, you spin out, you keep going. Like it's in its goofy environments with lots of big animals and stuff like that. So in this one, you win your way through the circuit until you've won the championship, sort of thing, and you race in like Rio, Singapore, all these different areas with all these different tracks. And as you go along, you earn the ability to upgrade your car, sort of thing, so you can keep getting faster and better, and as you go through the track. So there's really not much to say about this game, because it is, if you've ever played a Cruis'n game, you know they're very basic, they're very simple, but they're also very well done. They look great. They've got this goofy arcade feel to them. They control great, and they're just a super amount of fun as well. So and the good thing about Cruis'n Blast is that I think it's on all systems, and it's also very cheap. So if you want a nice easygoing arcade racing game to add to your collection to just pick away at and have fun with, you could do worse. I'll be back tomorrow. See ya.